I'm very happy that by some sort of just gift of the fate or whatever, I always loved making things. And so for me, making things allowed me naturally to have products. And I don't know why, how it came about, but I did, and I had the energy to start making my own textiles for projects, for clients, and then doing show house, and then people asking me where to get my fabrics, and then that led to a fabric collection, and then to a showroom of our own in Los Angeles, and then that led to people wanting to buy the furniture that was dotting around the showroom. And
welcome to Talk Shop. I'm Ariel Okin, a New York-based interior designer, writer, and editor, looking to bring a little bit of magic into our homes every day. After years as a writer and editor in the interiors world, I founded my own editorial site, Vendome Lane, in 2020, and the Talk Shop interview series was born. Each week, I delve into the personal experiences of the top interior designers and tastemakers around the globe. This week, I'm joined by award-winning LA designer Peter Dunham. You may know Peter for his California-cool-meets-international-chic interiors, or for his iconic fabrics and wallpapers, or you've heard at Hollywood at Home, his one-of-a-kind destination for furnishings, lighting, accessories, and vintage pieces. We're huge fans at AOI. Peter was raised in France and went to school in England before beginning his career in New York to work in real estate. In 1998, he moved to LA and started his interior design company, and the rest was history. 5 years later, Peter launched his fabrics and wallpaper collection, which has since become a beloved industry resource. To house a growing collection of handcrafted furniture, textiles, and vintage finds, Peter opened Hollywood at Home in 2007. His flagship showroom, located in LA's La Cienega Design Quarter, is a bucket list destination for design lovers. And his New York showroom, opening this past fall in the New York Design Center, is worth a visit. Peter's first book, The World of Peter Dunham, Global Style from Paris to Hollywood, is out now with Vendome. And I was so excited to be able to chat with Peter about his retrospective of his work, how he got started in the industry, and the main principles of his ethos on design. Please join me as we welcome Peter Dunham to the podcast. Peter, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so excited to chat with you.
ditto.
I have been poring over your book since I got it, and we love your textile line. Like, we use it all the time at our firm. And I've just been so excited to get to chat with you and hear all about your story. I read your book cover to cover.
Oh, wow.
And I loved reading untraditional path into design and how you ended up getting there. And so we'll talk about all of that. But to kick off the conversation, we always ask everyone who comes on, can you describe your style in 3 words or less?
Yes, having looked at my book, you can probably describe it better than me. I would say atmospheric, layered.
I would say fun for the 3rd.
Okay, fun. Okay.
Your textile line is just such a happy, it's joyful. And our book came out today for pre-order, but the cover is a living room that we did, and it's your ECAT on your Hollywood at Home chairs in a dining room.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's just such a fantastic line that we just love to use.
We're already connected.
Yeah, exactly. And for those listening, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you are almost, sort of at this point in your life right now.
Well, it feels like I'm slightly in, a kind of a pivot point, because design's obviously my second career. I left university, and very influential designer friends who I had at the time, by some luck of the draw, said, oh, no, dear boy, it's a terrible way to make a living. Don't do it. So I thought, I better listen. And my father said, well, if you really want to go to New York, why don't you think about real estate? And I'd never really thought about real estate. It just grown up in France and going to school in England. Real estate wasn't really an industry in the same way that you think about it in the States. So that was my first career, which was working in real estate, which I loved. The big thing I think I realized that led me to design is I really like the transformative element of real estate. I love looking at a property, an apartment, a run-down, beaten-up old house, or whatever it was, and figuring out what I could do with it. What could I get out of it more? Almost like a developer does.
Yeah.
That was kind of the first thing. So I feel that I'm sort of an inflection point, that I've done these 25 years now of being based in Los Angeles and New York, and facing the next 20 years with a different set of tools. As you know, we obviously opened our showroom in New York, which was a
Yes.
kind of big
So
pivot for us
fabulous.
and very
Yep.
exciting. And it feels like a homecoming because I obviously lived in New York for 15 years and have a lot of friends and lots of experiences there. So it feels in a way that the book, without it intending to be, was kind of, oh, wow, this kind of reset.
Interesting.
What is the next phase looking like? And I think that the market around us is changing a little bit for design services, for product. I'm very happy that by some sort of just gift of the fate or whatever, I always liked making things. And so for me, making things allowed me naturally to have products.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it came about, but I did. And I had the energy to start making my own textiles for projects for clients, and then doing show house, and then people asked me where to get my fabrics, and then that led to a fabric collection, and then to a showroom of our own in Los Angeles, and then that led to people wanting to buy the furniture that was dotting around the showroom and the vintage that I'd been hoarding, let's be honest. So that, one step went into another. So I've done that for 25 years. I got sort of pushed into doing a book, which I'm very grateful for. I was kind of reluctant to do it.
It's so wonderful. And I feel like you get into so much about, everything you just talked about, your passion for making things, and that chapter about your first townhome that you gutted and that process and what that was like and the transformation. I feel like you really get the full story with the book, and it's very personal, which not all books. I think what sets your book apart, and I found it so interesting, was that it's almost like a diary, like a personal diary of your, the 25 years that you've spent in the industry, and how all the things you did before design kind of led you to the last 25 years.
Oh, thank you. I mean, honestly, the publisher is amazing.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
They had a great team. I had a wonderful editor with Stephen Drucker, who's a legend in the business. And there was a fantastic book designer called Celia Fuller, who works at Vendome, who really, every time she would, well, let me just try a chapter, see how you like it.
Yeah.
And then I would gasp, but say, okay, let's go on to the next one, So that made the process. And, that's where my kind of hesitation to put my story forth. Maybe I'm very English that way, but just kind of, I felt shy about it. And then I realized, okay, well, all the pictures that we've taken lovingly over the past 2 or 3 years, and some much earlier, she combined with the textiles, and it made for what I felt was a joyous story and a joyous book, which was great.
Yeah, it is. It's really, it has such energy through it, which not everything jumps out at you like that. So it's wonderful. So what drew you to want to move to the States originally? And then where was that moment when you realized design was your calling?
I'm quarter American. My father's half French, half American. So I definitely grew up with a 25% American approach, interest, but I grew up very much as a European, a kind of French, English kind of upbringing, more than American. But I came here when I was 15 for the first time. I came to New York, and the minute I spewed out of the Midtown Tunnel, I was like, oh, I had an aha moment. And this is where I felt at home because, it was very much a gypsy, sort of an expat, but not an expat, and a very British education from the age of 8 on. But we didn't have a home in England. So it felt, I won't say confusing, but because I felt at home in all these places and entitled to belong to these different, very different nationalities. But when I stepped out of that Midtown Tunnel with steam coming out of these pipes, and I think they're still there, and I was like, okay, this is it. And then so I came back for my gap year between school and university. When you go up to Oxford or Cambridge, you have to take a year off. And so I'd said, oh, well, I'm definitely going back to New York. And I was going to come for 2 or 3 months. And I stayed 7. I took a sublet in the Village and worked at Bergdorf Goodman and met tons of people and jumped into New York. And I totally felt at home. And so as soon as I graduated and spent a little time in Paris, I was like, okay, I'm going back to New York. And it was a very easy transition, I have to say, maybe out of ignorance, whatever it is, or confidence. But New York was very welcoming to me, and I'd kept up with friends who came in and out of New York. So that was very easy. So that's kind of how, my move to America was. And then after 15 years in New York, I fell in love with somebody who lived in Los Angeles by accident. He was a friend of several of my friends. I came here for Memorial Day one weekend, and that's what ignited. I spent a year going back and forth, telling myself, wow, this is going to be great. And then I landed here one El Nino-ish March with lots of rain and stormy weather and everything. Thought, well, what am I going to do now?
Oh my God, that's so funny.
So I started flipping houses because I just flipped a house in the village that was kind of a crack house. And I spent 2 or 3 years like dumpster diving and finding all this great vintage. It was literally, that's why I love more about the process of construction and design than anything else I did, because this building, I knew what an 1840s house should look like. So it was a lot of fun doing it, and I learned a lot. And then I took that with me when I moved to LA. It was almost like kind of a marketable commodity that I had.
Right. Being able to turn something around like that.
And I started flipping houses. And I started with one that kind of was my fantasy of California, which is this kind of 1-story 50s ranch house in the hills. And I had in mind this fantasy of those David Hockney paintings of the 60s of, people standing in front of their Truesdale house. Yeah. And that was the vision of California I had. And that was the first house I did, funny enough. And that was good. And that led me to do others. And then people started asking me if I would help their friends. And one thing led to another. I think my first project had a budget of $25,000. I was like, of course I can do this.
Well, that's how it goes, right? This is how I started. I didn't go to school for design either. People would come over and be like, oh, I love your place. Can you help me with it? And then suddenly I was doing more of that than I was doing my actual day job that I should have been doing.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I realized when I did my first $25,000 project and installed it, a thing completely hit me over the head like a baseball bat. And that is this emotion, which looking back on it, I realized was creative satisfaction.
Yep.
Up to then, I had creative satisfaction in the project's first flip thing I did in New York, which wasn't intended to be a flip at all. It was intended to be my house. And, and the excitement of doing it and seeing it all come together, for sure. But it's when I actually did a full-fledged couple of rooms. So I was like, wow, this is fun. This is great.
It's so engaging, too, when you have a client, because you get the personal story from them, and then you can weave that into your work. And it's just so satisfying to be able to deliver that to someone. And then they're so happy with their new space. And it's interesting, how you highlight the difference between flipping and versus having a client. I think that personal element comes in, and it just makes it even that much more gratifying.
I agree. I mean, I think you are designing it for someone. And so there's that extra element of, I guess you could call it even tension, but you're making it for them. It's not for you. It's not just your fantasy.
Right. It almost makes you push the boundaries a little more out of your personal comfort zone so that you can get to where they want it. And then 5 years later, after you moved to LA in 2003, you launched your incredible textile and wallpaper collection, which we love so much. Talk a little bit about that and how that started, and it's grown so much over the years. And now you have 2 showrooms by Coastal.
I was always, without realizing why, but I was always kind of collecting textiles as I went along. I liked particularly tribal textiles, Indian, North African, Middle Eastern, African. That's when I went to this kind of what I call organic geometrics. I grew up very much under the influence of David Hicks, who was my best friend at school's father.
Yeah.
His eye went to a much more rigid geometry, and I like mine a little bit looser.
Yeah, and you can see that in the collection. I mean, it's definitely in different ways and different patterns.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's that influence, but I also like the romance of these places around the Mediterranean that spoke to me very much. So that's kind of why. So I was always collecting these textiles without really knowing, many years before ever thinking or dreaming that I'd be a designer. So as I started doing projects, there were things I wanted that weren't available because when I started, the market was really dominated by these big players, Clarence House
Right.
at one end, Pindler at the other, very big institutional textiles that weren't necessarily speaking to a more artisanal product that I was looking for. I always wanted to take, oh my God, that vintage textile I had. I wish I could find enough to do a whole room or some curtains in a room. So then on one trip, I made a friend in Jaipur who said he could oversee block printing for me if I ever wanted to. So that's how I started it.
It's so cool.
And Marion McAvoy, the legendary editor who started Elle Decor in America and who went on to House Beautiful and created a year and a half of amazing issues of House Beautiful,
Yeah.
pushed me to do a show house. And said, Peter, you have to do it. And I said, Marion, I don't have any money. I don't have an assistant. They're expensive. What are you talking about? She said, no. You have to do it. I want you to be part of it. And she published me already my apartment in New York in Elle Decor in the Village. And, so she saw something in me, which I clearly didn't yet at the time. So we did one, I did a kitchen. And then the second time they did it again, I did a bedroom and I did these textiles that I'd been making for clients. And everyone started asking me. So that's how I did it. And it was very much textiles that were very personal to me that I'd seen, wanted, collected, and wanting to use. And honestly, from that first show house room, all of them are still in my collection.
Yeah. I feel like you have some that are kind of almost like cornerstone, kind of like heritage patterns of your brand, and then the new ones add in. But I love that you don't ever discontinue them because they've become kind of iconic.
Well, they're very much the ones that were the most personal to me, and I think everyone's work, when it's really personal to them, is probably their best. And like everything personal, you go through ups and downs. There's certain things you come across that feel like, oh, wow, I love that so much. And then there are things like, okay, I guess we should add that to the line because we need a stripe or we need a little fabric. And it becomes a different decision. But ultimately, the ones that really feel authentic to you are probably the ones that maybe work the best. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's like with art in general. I think the ones that have the most personal connection usually end up being the ones that feel really original and interesting. Do you think your design style evolved after moving from New York to LA?
Yes, I'll tell you why, because my boyfriend at the time, when I moved to LA, had grown up in Los Angeles on very different experiences than mine. I mean, he was very sophisticated and traveled the world and everything else, but he was very into comfort. And I'd never been hit over the head with the sense of comfort in the same way. So he kind of drilled into me this idea of comfort and order, which, in New York, spaces are small and people want chic. They want style. And they're quite willing to sit on a dining room chair that you can fit a buttock and a half on. Yeah. But in LA, people don't. I learned very quickly I had to have furniture that was comfortable. And other clients were also asking for that as well. So I think that there's definitely a sense of ease and comfort that came into it from LA. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the weather is warmer and it's a little bit more casual. So that probably opened my eyes to maybe a little bit less urban.
Yeah.
But I would say my general sort of mix, what I enjoy is a mix of like texture and smooth and of what I call puddingy furniture, which is sort of upholstered stock furniture, and bony pieces in a room. That was there before. And I think very much a mixture of like natural woven material like sisals or wicker or rush, bringing that into a room was there already.
Yeah, that layered kind of bohemian element was there. Also, I mean, your childhood growing up in France and England, I think you were in so many places. You took a little bit of each of them with you as you went.
Definitely. And I spent my summers in Spain when my parents bought a house, God bless them, in the late 1950s. And I had a very strong Mediterranean element of sort of, stone and, those Californian colors that were very natural to me. So I think that's why moving to California was in a way natural to me because I'd grown up with, as my happiest place of the year was our house in Spain,
Yeah.
where the sense of airiness and freedom and sea and sky and, kids come for meals, but otherwise you're on your own, do whatever you want kind of thing. Just came naturally to me here, where like places like Ojai speak to my visual youth,
Right.
places like Santa Barbara, the really beautiful aspects of California that exist relate back to that.
So interesting. There must have been a little bit of like a homecoming feeling when you got to LA because it blended all of those experiences.
It did, because also, in a weird way, LA has all these different types of houses. We have Tudors and we have Georgian and we have the, northeastern clapboardy houses and we
Yep.
have, modern houses and super modern houses and deco and, we've got all these different types. So it's kind of a wonderful place to learn because you need to make all these different styles kind of work in a contemporary lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And making the most of them and making them relevant to their space. So it's a really great place to learn if you're going to learn how to cope with different styles. And I love all the different layering of architecture, the fact that people really build their fantasy houses here.
It's so true. And you get exposure to so many different styles and layers, really. Are there any projects that you're particularly super proud or fond of?
I would say that there's a house I did in Aspen, which was a ground up house. And I'd worked with these clients for quite a bit, for a few years. And then they decided to build their sort of future, the house, where they were probably going to retire to, they're not there yet, but they were thinking ahead. And I think the husband really wanted to fish and the kids wanted to ski and they spend, it's their country house in a way that a country house in England feels like, oh, that's part of, your soul, your happy place. And they very much wanted a traditional house, like a farmhouse. And I recommended Mark Appleton, who's an architect from Santa Monica and Santa Barbara. And that was a great collaboration, but it was really very much a house where every aspect, indoor and outdoor, of the house was sort of reclaimed, repurposed. We bought barns in Tennessee and, brickwork somewhere else and stonework, and every bit was really well thought out.
So cool.
And the house feels very timeless. And it's fun to be able to do something that people walk in and say, when was this house built? It's kind of confusing people and blurs. Was it a conversion of barns, which kind of is what it looks like?
Right.
But that's a project I feel very proud of, where we were able to really scour for amazing architectural features. We have an island in the kitchen that's made from two, 1830s Pennsylvania shop counters. Talk about the holy grail that we jammed together to make an island.
Wow.
Kitchen Island. And there were just things like that we're able to go out and source where it really feels fantastic. So
that's a beautiful one in your book too. I feel like one of the lessons that I took away from your book also, which kind of, I feel like this project is the great teaching vehicle for this, but you go out and you go to reclaiming yards and architectural junkyards, and you find all of these elements that kind of can make a home feel like it's got patina and it has a life before it's been built. And I think that's what makes your spaces feel so alive and like they have a history. What do you think your favorite thing about working in design is? Is it that personal element?
I think it's I find it really exciting to arrive at, you can believe this if you want, but it's a shithole. I've watched there plenty in LA, there are plenty of stuff. And seeing something in this property and being able to impact it, to move it. So that's, to me, the first thing is like, okay, what gets my real juices flowing? It's like, okay, what's the potential? What can I do to get the people 150% of what they put into this project? So whether it's additional space I found under the crawl space, whether it's moving the house to get a better angle or a better approach to the house with a better driveway, whether it's, like the inventiveness is what excites me. The kind of
Yeah.
the part where you think, wow, that's cool. Or wow, I can stand back and say, I earn my fee just on that one idea.
Right, because the ROI just alone. And also it's so interesting because that was really how you started. I mean, that was kind of what your real estate
Yes.
career and your flipping career was. And so it seems like that spark when you first get to a project, no matter how where you're doing it, is the most exciting part.
For whatever reason, living on all these different places that my parents lived in or the schools I went to and all this stuff, there is this need to nest within me. There's this need, even if I'm nesting for other people,
Yeah.
I enjoy this creation of nests where people feel at home, where people that have a lot of atmosphere. I would way rather a house have atmosphere than elegance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would rather people come in and feel good and not necessarily know why they feel good
Right, right.
or they feel excited when they walk in. Because, I mean, I've been to so many impressive looking houses that I think this is so dull.
Yeah, they don't have the charm.
It's just like the stone on the floor looks like kind of boring and it's very impressive. And it's like, oh my God, it's like this big frigging house and there's nothing interesting to look at on the wall. There are no books. There's no.
Yeah. There's no charm, really. I love that you dedicated a whole chapter in the book to atmosphere because it's so important.
I mean, that to me is the most important thing. That is the one that relates to the people the most.
Yep.
And if the people want to be, I always think of like, what type of house do you want? Most of my clients want to be the house that all their kids' friends want to come and hang out at.
Yep.
And it's not just friendly and a big pool and a full refrigerator. It's one they feel welcome at, where they're at ease. And that's what I try and do in my houses. I'm not the one to come to if you want a house that looks really pompous without any good reason. If it's authentically pompous, like give me Chatsworth.
Right. That's a different story.
Give me an amazing house. I can do fancy pompous that way, but I'm always going to bring it down to earth a bit so it's approachable.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my projects in the book is this beautiful Paul Williams house, which was done, I think, in 28. And it's on 16 acres in Beverly Hills, which is extremely impressive to most people. It certainly was to me.
Yeah.
But the house isn't the biggest house in Beverly Hills by any means. It's probably 10,000 square feet. But it's beautifully sited. It has very nice bones. It has a perfect layout. But because the owner is kind of a prominent producer and he has a great collection, he is a very hospitable person who, wanted people to feel at ease and comfortable in his house.
Right.
And so it's not all about knocking you over the head with like the Jean-Michel Basquiat over the sofa that was on the cover of the Basquiat retrospective at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. It's the fact that you walk in and it feels warm and inviting and there's places to explore, and the shyest person who may need to go there for whatever reason still feels they can belong there.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's such a warm way of thinking about the function and purpose of design. I love that.
Because that could be a very pompous house. I mean, it's like,
yeah,
but it's a friendly house and the owner is friendly. And it made sense for him because of the industry where there's so many different people coming to you.
Right. They're hosting all the time. Yeah. But I think you find that atmosphere across the board in everything you do. I feel like that's like your rule number one is like, if it doesn't feel authentic, scrap it and we're trying something else. Like it has to feel warm and approachable and layered and interesting and like one of one for it to make sense. Is that what you would say is like the design rule that you always follow?
I don't know whether it's a design rule. It's just in my spine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just part of my stem cell thing. You are hiring me to make your house feel good, to make it for whatever reasons, whether it's just for yourself or whether it's to entertain or whether it's for your kids or family gathering. I'm going to get down to the nitty gritty of what is important to you. And, like Billy Baldwin used to quote all the time Diana Vreeland saying, "You've got to give them what they never knew they wanted."
Right.
And people don't necessarily know, but then when they're there and it's done and they feel good. I mean, I had a
Yeah.
client who was grousing about the project and how much it was costing. And I was like, you don't understand. And I said to him very sweet, I took him aside on it. She has lived in this house and this property for 28 years. And for 28
Oh,
years, she
wow.
has wanted to live somewhere else
Yeah.
or in a different way. So now that she can have it and you're doing it, make her happy, because the alternative is going to cost you way more money. You're going to, it's going to be much more expensive to you. So when it was done, he was the one who was the happiest and proudest. And he purrs around his house and shows people his house, and he's thrilled with it,
And he never knew that that's what he needed until it.
No, he never knew about this sense of quality of life that designers can bring to people's lives.
Yeah. No, it's really true. What do you think is some of the best advice for designing that you've ever received, and from who, if you're willing to share?
Well, I mean, obviously, they're just very basic things. Like David Hicks would always say, look, start with the carpet.
Right.
That's what he told me. And then there was another, because it's so much harder to put everything back into a carpet. And it obviously made sense when people had used a lot more Persian carpets and all that. It's really hard to backtrack a room.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also had so much exposure throughout your career with mentorship and.
I did. I was very lucky. I was very, very lucky. I think that, as somebody pointed out to me, but that's because you were interested. I guess if I was really interested in baseball, I probably would have met interesting people in baseball, because that's kind of what my personality is like. But I'm very interested in design, in the creation of houses. And so to me, I was always attracted to designers wherever I could meet them, and had admiration and interest in what they did.
That's a really good point for people listening too, who are trying to get into. We have a lot of people who listen who, they're pivoting careers, or they're early in their career and they want to become a designer. And I think that's a good point that, when you're really interested in something, mentors can kind of find you. Like, you don't have to, it happens naturally in that way.
Without formal education, and God knows I'm going at the end of the month, SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, if I can wrap my tongue around that,
Yeah.
Which is an amazing place. But I do not have 1 hour of formal education in design. And I'm going to speak to the alumni for their alumni weekend.
That's amazing.
And the moderator of the whole thing said, we're going to speak right into that. And so I would say that in terms of advice of places, it wasn't really advice, but it was habit that was drilled into me, is to go and visit and look at places and be curious. And
yeah,
like when I first moved to LA, I went to see every single house open to the public I could see on obscure Wednesdays of every odd month, or on once a year, whatever it was, I would go and see on my subsequent trips during the year, going back and forth to see everything, so I could kind of get a feel. I would go to open houses to get a feel and understand houses. I grew up, my mother would schlep us to Sissinghurst, which was near my boarding school in Kent, like all the time. We'd go to Knoll. I mean, everywhere I go, the first thing is, okay, what can I see here? I'm going to Atlanta. What can I see here? I want to see some house that was done, in 1780 or something. Or I want to see a house that was, you can visit, but that was built in the 50s, by Frank Lloyd Wright or something.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
Looking and really wanting to look is very important to me. But I think everyone who goes into design has this innate sense of wanting to create habitats. If you don't have that, then you should maybe do something else, because there are a lot of frustrations in being designers that you have to live with.
Yeah, and you have to really love it.
Yes.
It's very true.
It's one of the most important aspects. If you don't really love what you do, I mean, a lot of people come wanting to work, when they apply for a job and they want to come, and like, I try to dig down, okay, what is exciting you in this? What made it? What was the spark? What are you interested in?
What do you think your home says about you?
Well, I'm doing this called sitting in my little tiny library at home. I would say that it shows a lot of different interests. It shows sort of a sense of relaxed balance and order, that I'm not super manic about order.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, that everything is sort of like in its place-ish, that it's been resolved, but that it's not uptight. I think that's what it would say.
Yeah.
I think it would say, again, like, I want to welcome people into my life and make space for them, because my house is definitely very well set up for that.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the idea of trophy entertaining rooms that, you know, unfortunately living room and dining rooms are so often relegated to. I like to have fewer rooms, but make them really be good for me to watch my laptop in,
Yep.
or read, or my boyfriend to be able to paint or make jewelry in the corner with his waxes, just as much as people come and feel, you know, and have places to cluster.
Right.
But I think when you come in, there's a whole staircase full of African masks. Now, there are not a lot of places you walk into in LA that have like 30 African masks staring at you.
I would imagine no.
So what does that say? Oh, it says like he's a traveler.
Yeah.
He's like
A collector.
interested. Yes, he's a collector. He's a traveler. He's interested in stuff a little outside my average orbit. I want it to make me look interesting.
Well, you are interesting too. I mean,
It's not even trying, to be honest. It's because I don't like an empty wall, you know.
Yeah. And it's like those things have come and accumulated in your life from your travels and from the things that you are drawn to, and you've collected them over time, and then you find this house that works for you. And so the functionality element combines with the personality element, and then you've got this awesome entryway that kind of tells so much about who you are and also is different than everything else. I think that's like the crux of your work. Like, it's unfussy, but it's very cool because it's, you don't find it elsewhere, and it's, everything is one of one or found somewhere unique, and then it has this interesting mix between it.
I mean, I find poetry in that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's another thing I'm trying to create a little bit, that esoteric thing of like poetry. Places can be poetic or they can be sterile. And I think that if there's something, even if it's just, and I try and get the landscaping to participate in a lot in that. I'm always like, let's just use the landscape around us to the greatest thing to create this sense of dappled light on decomposed granite paths, and this sense where the senses are just excited or they're rested.
And it helps to create a sense of place too. I mean, that's sort of what you did with that house in Aspen. You kind of brought the outdoors in with the different stones that you used and the reclaimed woods and all of those pieces. And I think it's a really good tip for those listening too, to sort of, the house isn't just about, oh, I have to fill this room with furniture. What is the sense of place where the house is sited? Where is it? What can you bring from the exterior and indoors?
Yeah, well, definitely for me, the sense of place is very strong. It's really hard for me to go to the desert and do a Georgian house.
Right.
It's really hard. I mean,
yeah.
But then when you get into desert, there are lots of different aspects of being in the desert. You know, do you go minimal? Do you go tribal? Do you bring in a lot of nature? I mean, you know,
and that's where the personality comes in.
There are a lot of different ways to approach it.
What are some of your favorite places to shop for home?
Well, I definitely like anything vintage. So I'm definitely a live auctioneer addict.
Me too. It's really dangerous.
Yes, it is. I love going to the Rose Bowl, to be honest. I'll go to house sales. I'll go to Christie's. I think this thing of getting the one-off opportunity is very exciting. So I love that a lot. I'm a big believer in the auction volume.
Where do you find inspiration?
So I find going to museums and go to see a lot of gallery shows inspires me a lot. I think other people's creativity inspires me, but it's a subliminal type of inspiration because I'm not necessarily going to do that exact same thing, but seeing what somebody had an idea with papier mache that they managed to do these sculptures with. Like, oh God, that would be cool on a wall, or to do a fireplace with, and it just sort of, it goes into the big kind of compacted recycled bin of inspiration. So I find that's a really big one for me.
I was so inspired in your book about the where you talk about milk paint and how you figured it out and you did it yourself and how you were inspired to do it. I think it's, when you expose yourselves to so many different things, it sets off a light bulb that then you wouldn't have otherwise thought of, and then you're creating something new from that inspiration that you had.
I would say that that's true. Curiosity. The other day I was, for book signing in Martha's Vineyard. I'd never been to Martha's Vineyard before. And we had a couple of hours. And so we arrived at the airport and I said, okay, can we hire you by the hour? We have like 2 hours spare. We want you just to drive us around the island, show us all the things we should see. And, in 2 hours, I think I got a pretty decent idea of what at least the topography and the mood of Martha's Vineyard is, which is different than anywhere else I've ever been, actually. It's kind of like the Hudson Valley meets Fire Island or something, or Montauk. You've got this
beachy and not as, it's very like undone.
It's countryside meets beach, my favorite combination.
Yeah.
And, with stone walls and big trees and houses far apart or not even visible, but these meadows. And it's very, very beautiful in a way that I found appealing. But how did I find out about it? It was just not by going to Edgartown and going to the bookstore I was signing books at, but it was by getting in the car and saying, show me. I want to see what booking topography is.
We're going to get into our Take 10 now, which we ask 10 questions rapid fire at the end of every episode. They have nothing to do with design, really, but we always like to ask them. So what is your favorite food?
Sushi.
Favorite drink?
Tequila.
Favorite film?
There's so many. I like conversation piece.
That's a good one.
I think that's a really one that I really like. I mean, I absolutely love I Am Love.
Oh, that's a beautiful movie. Yeah.
Takes place, I think it's his most successful movie by far. I love any of the Merchant Ivory movies. You'll notice that I don't really like any sci-fi movies. I don't like that much action movies.
Yeah. Well, they don't have that human element to them, really. They're not like, they don't have atmosphere.
And of course, everything that's in a film that's sci-fi comes to pass because they research what's coming down the pike and, and spacemen and whatever is happening. I'm not that interested. I actually like the romance of the past in the present rather than the future in the present.
I feel that way too. Favorite hotel?
It's Fort Ahelia in Maheshwar.
Oh my God, I've never heard of it. I'm going to look it up.
I first saw it in the World of Interiors, third plug for World of Interiors. And I was just like, oh my God, this place. Another friend of mine went, she said, oh, I go there all the time. I love it. So then I decided on a trip to India to go out of the way. It's kind of out of the way. It's an indoor. It's this absolutely spectacular small fort that's the last asset that the current Maharaja of Indore has. This beautiful 15th century fort with very steep walls.
Wow.
On this extraordinary river in this town, which is a very important Hindu town, with the river flowing and the banks with praying places. Anyone who's listening who can go, it is unforgettable experience.
That's so amazing. That's like a bucket list.
Yeah, that I wanted for anyone to really worthwhile, and I'd go back in a heartbeat.
Favorite city?
It's a hard one, but I would say probably New York.
I know. I'm biased, but I would agree with you.
New York's the one that never fails to excite me.
There's just so much going on always in different layers. And
I think the most exciting creative people, I think the best museum, the best exhibitions, the best theatre. I mean, you could say a lot of this about London. It's just a different vibe with it,
Yeah, different vibe. Favorite bedding? We always ask designers because everyone is so particular about this.
I love bedding that I get from Deborah Sharp Linens.
Oh, okay.
It's made in a small factory in Florence. It's beautiful quality. She does the most beautiful embroidery and also colors. I have a big partiality for blue sheets, what I call that kind of Stephanides blue, this kind of stylish blue sheets. I really love.
Yeah.
But I love her bedding.
I love that answer. It's another one that I'm going to look up. Tea or coffee, and how do you take it?
Both. Definitely both.
I love that shows you are half English and you've got 25 years of America in you too.
Well, I mean, listen, America doesn't cover coffee on its own, but there's a time for coffee that you need to like get out the door to be revived, and then there's tea. So I really only really love one tea, which is this very fine matcha tea from Mariage Frère that comes in sealed containers, and you have a whisk, and it's not super hot, but that's really reviving and refreshing. I really love that.
Yeah, that's like a ritual.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And then coffee, I like small batch coffee, French press. That's my go-to for coffee.
Favorite playlist or music to listen to?
Wow. I mean, if I'm going to think of like music, I would say the Eagles has a huge repertoire that I go for. Got reminds me of California a lot. So
yeah,
that's what I would say for that.
And weekend activity?
Well, we're very fortunate here that we have very beautiful hikes, and you need to slightly, like in everything, motivate yourself to go and do it in LA. But that is a really wonderful way to spend a Saturday morning.
It is. The ability to be outside just in LA is so nice. And even though everything is spread out, to your point, like you have to get in the car and go drive to go take a hike, it's just, you don't get that here really in New York.
And I'll tell you my other ones. Going to the farmer's market in Hollywood is absolutely my favorite thing to do on a Sunday. It's really important. It feels like, oh my God, I'm dealing with the spirituality of food and nature and what grows seasonally, and I meet friends, and you feel you're with other people, and and in New York I do the same thing. I have a place in New York, and I very often fly on a Friday, get there Friday night, get up in the morning and go to the farmers market in Union Square the next day, which is nearby. So to me, that type of food shopping is like a favorite thing at the weekend. And I would say the other thing I love to do is go to galleries and go to see artist studios, and because that's the time I have to do it.
Right.
And in LA in particular, it makes you very engaged with a very important community. It's very easy to go see artist studios and makers and ceramics, woodworkers. And that I really love doing too.
That's beautiful. And it's also so important for designers too, to be able to go out and meet the community around you. Favorite, this is the last one we ask, and I often think it's the hardest. Favorite design book?
The ones that I was obsessed with at school, and I think they still obsess me, and they're one and all slightly the same with the David Hicks books.
I mean, classic, incredible. Every interior designer should have them.
Yes. I mean, I sat there and pored through every page, fascinated by the combination of colors and types and how he resolved spaces. You can learn a lot from that. So I would say that's a really good one to me.
I love that. That's another really good piece of advice to end on. Well, a final few words. What are you working on right now? Are there any new projects you can talk about?
Yes. Well, we just started work on a really beautiful project in San Francisco on a hill facing a park. And it's one of those it's like a mini version of a Gilded Age house, kind of that epoch of San Francisco of the 1890s that has got these really interesting spaces that feel very San Francisco. And like for somebody who likes a sense of space, this has it in droves to work off of.
That's so cool.
So that's really exciting. And then, hold on, what else is new? We're working on a couple of really beautiful ground up houses, which is very satisfying.
Yeah, it's so fun.
We're working on a historic house by a somewhat famous LA designer, architect from the teens. So, I mean, we're talking about the Middle Ages for Los Angeles.
Wow. Yeah. I was going to say that's so rare for LA.
In Pasadena, and that's a really beautiful restoration project. We have a pretty nice, we're starting to work on this amazing apartment in Carnegie Hill in New York. Stunning, beautiful, like the apartment that, a family should own in New York City, with like stunning views, open, landmarked around you, just like fabulous.
I love that. And they're all so different, which is so much fun.
Yeah, we're doing this modern house in the desert in Palm Springs. We're doing an apartment in Newport Beach where they joined. There are very few apartment buildings in Newport Beach. So the people before put these two apartments together and made a shithole out of it. And so with Titchener Thorpe in LA, we really fixed this architecture really nicely, and it's going to be kind of fab.
I can't wait to see.
Well, hopefully there'll be enough material to make a second book if I can drag myself there.
Yes, there will be. There definitely will be. Well, Peter, thank you so much for coming on. This was such a joy.
Thank you,
Where can listeners find more about you and your brands? Well,
there's peterdunham.com. There's hollywoodathome.com. There is peterdunhamtextiles.com. We're on Instagram, the book, obviously. So I'm out there. You can...
Lots of places. I love it. You've built an empire.
You can sniff, but I'm very fortunate. Listen, I get up every day. I love what I do. It's often challenging. You think, oh my God, what do I have to do today? But at the end of the day, it's very satisfying and the days go by very quickly.
Yeah, I know. I think we all feel just so lucky that we get to do what we do every day. Like I'm always like, I can't believe that this is my job and that I don't have to be in a cubicle. And, it's a blessing when you love this, to be able to do it, and you do it so well. So thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you. And I'm looking forward to your book.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to email you after this, and I'm going to send you the cover of it because it's got Hollywood at Home and Peter Dunham textiles on the cover.
Well, I'll go and pre-buy it. It pushes the sales up.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you so much, Peter. You're the best.
Take it easy. Speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye, Ariel. Thank you.
That's a wrap for this week's episode of Talk Shop. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with more thoughtful discussions and amazing guests. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube so you never miss an episode. And of course, follow me at Ariel Okin. See you next week.